When her parents handed her little sister the keys to a brand new house, she stood there smiling, like the good daughter she always tried to be. Everyone was cheering, clapping, hugging. Her sister looked so happy, and their parents were glowing with pride. She didn't say anything, not at first. She just held her wineglass, nodded along, and kept that fake smile glued to her face. But when her mom pulled her aside and said, "You understand, right? You've always been so independent," something inside her broke. That night was supposed to be about family, about celebrating. She thought they had helped her sister with a down payment or maybe co-signed a loan. But no, they had paid for the whole thing. It was a gift, a full house. No mortgage, nothing, just hers. And her? Nothing. Not even a mention of help. No thought of how she was doing, living in a small rented apartment, working 2 jobs just to stay above water. After the party, she followed them to the kitchen and asked, "You bought the house?" Her dad looked surprised, like she shouldn't be asking. Her mom gave her a soft smile and said, "You're stronger. You've always been the one who didn't need much." She nodded slowly like she agreed, like it made perfect sense. She didn't want them to see how their words felt like knives. She left quietly, hugged everyone goodbye, and got in her car. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just drove. The sky was dark, and the streets were quiet. She reached into her bag at a red light and pulled out the scratch-off ticket she had bought for them earlier. A small gift, nothing huge, just a fun surprise she thought they'd enjoy. She had planned to give it to them after dinner with a card that said, "Thanks for everything," but she never gave it to them. She held it in her hand, looked at it under the streetlight, and suddenly felt this heat in her chest. Anger, betrayal, something sharp and cold. She stuffed it back in her purse and kept driving. She didn't know it yet, but that little ticket was about to change everything. She got home, late that night, kicked off her shoes, and dropped her purse on the floor. The silence in her apartment felt heavier than usual. Her face still ached from all the fake smiling she had done at the housewarming party. The echo of her mother's words, "You've always been so independent," ran through her head on a loop. She didn't cry. She didn't even sigh. She just stood in the middle of her kitchen, staring at the counter like it had betrayed her too. Then she remembered the lottery ticket. She pulled it out from her purse and stared at it under the kitchen light. Just a regular scratch-off, one of those fun little things people give as a joke. She had picked it up last week, thinking it'd be a cute, silly gift for her parent. She even had a little thank you card to go with it, still sitting untouched in her bag. But now, looking at it, something in her hardened. She grabbed a coin from the drawer and scratched it out right there, with sharp, angry movements. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. She blinked, leaned in closer. The numbers matched. The prize said $3 million. She stood frozen, coin still in her hand, heart pounding so hard it made her feel dizzy. She read the back of the ticket again and again, then checked the numbers one more time. It was real. It was actually real. Her hands started to shake. She sat down slowly, afraid her legs might give out. A laugh escaped her lips, dry and stunned. $3 million. She had almost handed that over to the same people who didn't think twice about giving her sister a house while offering her nothing. The same people who had looked her in the eyes and told her she was too strong to need help. At first, she felt lightheaded, almost giddy. But that joy quickly turned into something else. Fury. Pure, silent fury. She thought of her mum's smile, her dad's proud look, the way they had praised her sister like she was the golden child. She had stood in their kitchen like a stranger, while they handed her sister the world. And they had almost been handed this ticket, this close. She didn't call anyone, not her parents, not her sister. She placed the winning ticket on the table in front of her, stared at it for a long time, then whispered to herself, "They don't deserve it." And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel guilty for keeping something just for herself. She claimed the ticket quietly, without telling a soul. No excitement, no celebration, just a silent drive to the lottery office with the winning scratch-off folded in her wallet like a secret weapon. When they confirmed it, $3 million. No mistake. She didn't smile. She simply nodded, signed the papers, and asked for everything to be handled through a private trust. No name, no noise, just clean, quiet money. Back home, she told her parents the ticket had been a dud. "Nothing," she said with a shrug. When her mum casually asked how it turned out, her sister didn't even pretend to care. Of course they didn't ask again. Why would they? She had always been the one who never needed anything. No one ever looked twice at what she was going through, and now they wouldn't look twice at what she was hiding. The next week, she found a lawyer, a sharp one, with experience in handling sudden wealth and keeping things hidden. She also hired a financial advisor who didn't blink when she said, "I don't want a flashy life, I just want options." They met in quiet offices far from home, and every decision was made with care. No big purchases, no sudden changes, not yet. She could have used the money for comfort or to leave everything behind, but she didn't want to run. She wanted to stay close enough to watch, to build slowly, carefully, not for revenge in the usual sense. No yelling, no breakdowns. She didn't want them to feel her pain. She wanted them to notice her silence, her distance, her success. She wanted them to wonder. Every step forward from that moment wasn't fueled by greed. It was fueled by the memory of standing in her sister's kitchen, watching her parents beam with pride at someone else. It was about reclaiming something they'd taken from her long ago, the belief that she mattered too. She didn't need to destroy them. She just needed to rise in a way they couldn't ignore, and she would do it with the very thing she had once meant to give them, now turned into the foundation of the life she was going to build, alone. It started small, a new coat, tailored, sleek, something she would have once considered too expensive. Then came the haircut, sharp and clean, the kind that made people take a second look. She didn't tell anyone about the changes. She didn't announce anything. But with each upgrade, each quiet improvement, she felt a little piece of herself come back. Her apartment was next. She didn't move right away. Instead, she transformed what she had. New furniture, soft lighting, art on the walls. Everything was carefully chosen. Nothing flashy, just elegant. She had it professionally cleaned once a week. Fresh flowers in the kitchen. Expensive candles she actually lit. Her home became a place that felt like it belonged to someone who mattered. She took short trips, quiet weekends at coastal hotels, solo flights to cities she'd only seen on Instagram before. She didn't post selfies or captions about living her best life, just a photo of a sunset from a rooftop bar, a hand holding a glass of wine by a hotel pool, enough to be seen, but never explained. Her sister noticed first. A message popped up one morning. "Did you get a raise or something?" She read it, smiled to herself, and left it unanswered. A week later, she went to visit her parents. She hadn't seen them in months. She dressed with intention, soft cashmere, quiet gold jewelry, a leather bag that cost more than her first car. Her mum opened the door and looked her over quickly, eyes lingering just long enough to notice. She didn't comment, but her expression flickered, barely, but it was enough. Her dad gave her a casual hug and didn't seem to register anything at all. They talked about her sister, of course, the house, her job, her plans for the summer. Her name only came up when her mum asked, "How's work?" She gave a polite answer, something vague about consulting and contracts. Nothing too detailed, just enough to let the mystery hang in the air. They didn't ask more. On the way out, her mother walked her to the door. She paused for a second before saying, "You look good." It wasn't a compliment. It was curiosity, maybe even suspicion. She nodded, smiled and said, "Thanks, nothing more." She didn't need them to ask. In fact, she hoped they wouldn't, because the more they wondered, the more power she felt. Let them sit with the quiet changes. Let them feel the distance she no longer needed to explain. She wasn't showing off. She was rebuilding, and she wanted them to see every silent brick. They were sitting at the dining table, plates cleared, coffee poured, when her mother brought it up. "We've been working on the will," she said, stirring her cup like it was just casual conversation. "You know, just trying to get everything in order." Her father nodded, adding, "We want to make sure things are fair, that your sister's kids are taken care of." And just like that, it began. The talk of college funds, of the lake house they were thinking of putting in her sister's name, of splitting assets, but somehow always circling back to her sister. It wasn't even cruel. It was casual, matter of fact, like it was obvious, like it made sense. She sat there listening, letting them go on, nodding when it felt appropriate, sipping her drink. Her name was barely mentioned, and when it was with phrases like, "You're so stable," or "You've got your own thing going." They didn't ask if she wanted any. They assumed she didn't. They still saw her as the one who didn't need support, didn't need planning, didn't need them. She wasn't angry, not anymore. She waited for the right moment, then smiled. "Oh, don't worry," she said, setting her cup down gently. "I'm all set." The words hung in the air for a second too long. Her mom froze mid-stir. Her dad looked up from his phone. No one spoke. It was just a few seconds of silence, but it was thick and satisfying, like a full meal. They didn't ask what she meant. They didn't want to know. And that was the best part. She could see it in her mother's eyes, the questions she didn't ask, the flicker of doubt, of wondering. For the first time, they realized they didn't know everything about her life, that maybe she wasn't the quiet, forgotten one anymore. Maybe she was choosing not to include them. She didn't explain. She just smiled again, stood up to help clear the dishes, and moved on like it was nothing. Let them wonder. Let them feel the shift. She didn't need a place in their will. She had already rewritten her own future. The invitation was simple, just a text sent to the family group chat. Dinner at my place next Saturday. Bring nothing but an appetite. No details, no hints, just enough to get them curious. They showed up right on time, buzzing with questions the moment they stepped through the door. The condo was sleek and high above the city, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view that sparkled at night. The kitchen was spotless, a private chef quietly plating hors d'oeuvres. Soft jazz played in the background. She greeted them like it was all normal, like this was just her life now. Her mum's eyes darted around the open space. Her dad walked in slow circles, taking it all in. Her sister couldn't hide the disbelief. "This place is... wow," she said, forcing a smile. "So you're renting here?" Her tone was sugary, just shy of sarcastic. She smiled back. Something like that. Dinner was flawless. 4 courses, wine pairings, fresh flowers on the table. Every detail had been carefully planned, not to impress, but to unsettle. She talked about her recent trip to Barcelona, mentioned a conference in London. She spoke about her consulting work in vague, confident phrases that made it sound impressive but impossible to fact-check. Her parents nodded along, a little too slowly. Her sister picked at her food, tossing out comments like, "You've really changed. I remember when you lived in that tiny apartment with the peeling walls." And later, "It's amazing what Instagram filters can do." She let the insults roll off. She was expecting them. After dessert, she brought out coffee and sat across from her sister. "Actually, there's a brand I've been looking at. Small startup, eco-focused. You might be a good fit. They need someone for outreach and event coordination." Her sister lit up. "Really? That sounds perfect." She knew it wouldn't be. The company was real, but the role wasn't. She had already spoken to the founder. It was a mess of unrealistic deadlines, low pay, and zero direction. She was setting her sister up to crash, but gently, with a smile. The next day, her sister would apply, eager and overconfident. A few weeks later, she'd be frustrated and overwhelmed, blaming the company, the people, the system, never herself. But tonight, she was glowing, thinking her older sister had handed her a golden opportunity. Her parents watched, saying nothing. The silence was thick again, the kind that said they were starting to realize something had shifted, that their quiet daughter had grown into someone they didn't fully understand. She didn't need to brag. She didn't need revenge that shouted. This dinner was enough. The fallout came faster than she expected. Barely 3 weeks after the dinner, her sister started unraveling. The job she had begged to try, poorly managed, chaotic, and far beyond her actual skills, quickly became too much. Emails went unanswered, deadlines missed. She made excuses, played victim, and when it finally collapsed, she didn't blame herself. Of course not. She blamed her sister. The call came on a Thursday evening. Her mother's voice was tight, clipped with frustration. "Why would you set your sister up like that? She said you told her it was a great opportunity. She trusted you." She let the silence stretch, then said calmly, "She asked for a chance. I gave her one. What she did with it wasn't my choice." But the storm didn't stop there. Her father jumped in, accusing her of being cold, distant, of enjoying watching her sister struggle. "We raised you better than this," he said, and that was when it snapped. She laughed. Short, sharp. "You raised me to survive. That's exactly what I did." They fell silent, confused. She took a breath. Then she said it. "You never gave me anything. Not help, not support, not even a second thought. I was going to give you something huge. A lottery ticket, the night of that housewarming." More silence. She continued, voice steady. "It was worth $3 million. I scratched it alone, after watching you hand my sister a house like I was just the guest. And in that moment, I realized you didn't deserve it." Her mother's face, even over video, changed. The color drained. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "You were right about one thing," she added. I didn't need you. I built everything without your help. That ticket wasn't just money. It was the wake-up call. The moment I stopped trying to earn what you were never going to give." Her father muttered something, but it didn't matter. No one had anything real to say. Her sister stormed off the call. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain further. She just ended the call, calm and quiet. Let them sit with it. They had always seen her as the strong one, the one who didn't need anything. Now they knew why. There were so many moments she never spoke about. School award ceremonies, where she clapped for her sister, even when she'd won something bigger. Birthdays, where her gifts were practical. Books, school supplies, while her sister got the latest gadgets. Holidays, where she helped clean and serve, while her sister was praised just for showing up. She never said anything, never made a scene, just smiled and swallowed the ache. Once, as a teenager, she walked past her parents' room late at night. They were talking softly, and she paused when she heard her name. Her mum said, "She's fine. She's strong. We don't need to worry about her." Her dad agreed. She remembered standing there in the hallway, frozen. She should have felt proud. Instead, she felt invisible. Now, years later, she sat alone in her sleek, quiet condo. The place was warm, beautiful, filled with soft light and calm music. Everything she had was hers, earned, protected, built from the ground up. The people who once didn't see her were finally paying attention. They called, messaged, dropped hints about reconnecting, but it didn't matter anymore. Not really. They hadn't changed. They were just confused, uncomfortable with the version of her they couldn't control or label, the one who didn't show up when called, the one who didn't need their permission to shine. She didn't cut them off with a fight or angry words. No dramatic goodbye, no final confrontation, just silence. No updates, no visits, no more space in her heart for their excuses. They would still get the holiday card, the polite gift, the financial help if ever truly needed, but they would never again have access to the softest parts of her. There was no satisfaction in revenge anymore, just clarity. She didn't need their apology. She didn't need their love to feel full. She thought about that girl in the hallway, ears pressed to a door that would never open for her, and she wished she could tell her one thing. You were never weak for wanting more. You were just waiting to become the woman who'd give it to herself. Now she had, and she didn't need them to understand why. She waited patiently. Months passed before the perfect opportunity came. Her sister's house, the one their parents had proudly gifted, was now under a heavy mortgage. Her sister had refinanced it during one of her business phases, hoping to fund a lifestyle she couldn't keep up with. Payments slipped, notices piled up. That's when the narrator stepped in. Through a shell company, one with no ties to her name, she purchased the debt quietly, took control of the property without a word. No fanfare, no announcement, just paperwork, lawyers, and patience. The eviction notice arrived 2 weeks later. Her sister didn't understand at first. She cried, screamed, blamed the bank, but nothing changed. No extensions, no sympathy. She went to their parents for help, begged, but they were drained. The house, college funds, emergency bailouts, they had nothing left to give. Her father muttered something about responsibility. Her mother wept quietly, and the narrator watched, not with joy, but with something deeper. A quiet ache, a strange peace. She hadn't planned it for revenge, but it fit too well. The girl who was always told you'll be fine had finally become the one who could shake the ground beneath them, all while staying silent. A few days later, when the moving trucks were gone and the house sat empty, she drove there alone, parked across the street, remembered the housewarming party, the laughter, her sister twirling the new keys in her hand. She walked to the door and placed a plain envelope on the mat. No name, no return address. Inside was a single photo, a scratch-off ticket, numbers clearly visible, and the bold red letters that read $3 million winner. The same ticket she'd nearly gifted that night. Nothing else. No note, no explanation, just the truth, wrapped in silence. She got in her car and left, never looking back. There was nothing left to say. Her sister would recognize the ticket. She'd understand. And for once in her life, she'd know who really held the power and who had always been underestimated. The final receipt wasn't loud. It was quiet, personal, inevitable, and it cost her nothing. Her mornings were quiet now. No buzzing phone, no guilt waiting in unread messages, no constant pull to prove herself, just light streaming through her windows, the smell of fresh coffee, and the soft hum of peace. She didn't live extravagantly, not anymore. She'd travelled, spent, indulged in the thrill of newness. But eventually the hunger faded. What stayed was control, privacy, a life where every decision was hers and no one else's. She ran her business from a distance, hired the best people, let others take the spotlight while she remained behind the scenes. The luxury condo was still hers, but she had a quieter home now, farther from the city, wrapped in trees and silence. She didn't hate them, not really. Hate took energy, and they had taken enough already. She just didn't care anymore. Her parents still sent the occasional message, vague check-ins, holiday wishes. Her sister, after the eviction, had gone quiet too. No apology ever came. Not that she expected one, because that was the thing. They had taught her long ago how to survive without comfort, how to move through disappointment without breaking. They thought they were helping her by giving less, praising less, loving less. But all they did was show her that love, for them, was conditional, earned, measured. She had learned not to expect anything, and so now she gave nothing, not out of spite, just principle. She supported a few charities through anonymous trusts, paid her staff well, tipped heavily, but she never gave herself away, not to family, not to friends who didn't stay through the dark parts. She wasn't cold, she was simply done offering warmth where it was never returned. She scrolled through her phone one evening, sipping wine on her quiet porch. Her thumb hovered over her contacts list. Names she hadn't called in over a year. The same voices that once told her, "You're so strong," while handing everything to someone else. She selected her mother's number, then her father's, her sister's. No hesitation, just taps and delete. No final message, no warning. Just gone. A clean slate, not for attention, for peace. She looked up at the sky. The stars were faint, but they were there. She felt light, not angry, not sad, just free. Because in the end, she didn't need them to see her. She had seen herself clearly enough, and that was more than enough. Do you think she made the right choice by cutting her family off for good, or should she have given them one last chance to make things right? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really love to hear your take on it. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update.